Good afternoon or good evening, right? Exciting to see you here. So, something very interesting in this episode of Renewables and Money. So, we want to talk about the different business model that we have in the industry. So, you maybe ask yourself, so why do I want to talk about it? So, I'll tell you in a minute, but let me first of all ask you the questions. So, do you know or do you have an idea of what are the different type of business model that you can find in the renewable energy? Because if you want to step into the sector, it may be very important for you to find out what they are. First of all, let me just reintroduce myself. So my name is Tony Teal. I'm the founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa. And we are your global clean energy champions. Our job is very simple, is to make sure that we demystify the renewable energy sector for you. So that whether you're an investor, you wanted to invest into the sector, so you can get the right information for you, or maybe if you are a professional, you want to step into it, again, you're going to get the information that's going to direct you and you know how to go about it. Or maybe if you're a business, you say you want to decarbonize your operation, we definitely will talk to you. So what we ask you to do is just essentially three things. The first thing is we want you to subscribe to our channel because we actually broadcast from 5 platforms, right? So we're broadcasting from LinkedIn, so we're broadcasting from Facebook, we're broadcasting from Twitter, from Telegram, and YouTube, obviously. And by the way, talking about YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, and press the bell notification so that whenever there is any new video, you know that it's around and you do not miss it. And you can attend live. You can ask me questions. And the second point for me, that's actually what I want to talk to you about. Comment. Leave me your comment. So tell me what you think about it. So what is your question? And I'd be very happy to respond to that. And the third point is just to share. If you happen to watch right now, please, I wanted to take a second or two just to do it. It won't cost you much. You just share, and that's great. And this way, by doing it, you make sure that people that may be interested will get to find out more about this right in this program. And the reason we've done, especially renewables and money, is because we wanted to do something to really talk to you about running a renewable energy business, right? Because it's not obvious that everybody properly understand it. Definitely out with that, and I suspect many people may have also struggled with that. So there for me is to make sure that we can demystify that and talk about it so that you know what is available, right? So that is what I'm going to be talking to you about. So before I dive into the topics, let me just say the reason as well I wanted to share that because, in fact, you may or may not know that we also develop some project on the side. So we are a project developer as well, but more in the CNI space. You may be asking yourself, so what is a project developer? That's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about. Just hang on a few seconds, right? So essentially, this gentleman just reached out to me, very nice gentleman. So we had a conversation. And essentially, they bring a project to us. So this is actually in West Africa. I'd rather not mention the country, like I say, as much as possible. It's about protecting the privacy of those people and also the identity. So essentially, so he brought to me a project. So we looked at that in the team, and then we've discussed and told him obviously how we believe we can engage. And then and because obviously he was talking about his compensation, right? So we made him understand that the sector worked a certain way, and he was only entitled to, let's say, a certain commission, right? If we were to take the project forward. And he was a little bit surprised because we kind of split it and also described to him how the costs usually split, whereby you have the EPC costs, you have the development costs, just to make it very simple. You also have other costs, right? Like just to keep it simple. And he was surprised. I say, come on, this is a CNI project. This is not utility scale. So you don't have, what other development do you have? Everything is already there. You just have to go and build it. So it made me smile a little bit, right? Because effectively, so you get this kind of comment into the sector. That's because people don't always understand how things work, right? And that's not 100%. By the way, I have been there myself. You know, there has been a time where I know at all what was it. So that's why I thought, okay, let's have this episode today where we're talking about the different business model and to clarify that to make it as simple as possible for you, right? And this is what I want to talk to you about. I'm hoping that's going to be helpful. By the way, as I do that, do me a favor, just share. So if you happen to watch it, I know there are people watching me. Please share that, and I appreciate it. And also drop me your question as I go through that, and I respond to that. I'm aiming to be done within the next half an hour, right? I don't want it to make it long, but I think it's important for us for this conversation. So let's dive into it, shall we? Excellent. So the first business model that I want to to talk to you is something we all on becoming solar installer, right? So we all understand that. So, and for each, by the way, let me just obviously take maybe a step back. So for each of those categories I'm going to describe, I'm going to talk to you about what is it about, right? So how are they making their money, and what are the things that you want to watch out for, right? So very simple. What is it about? How they make money, and what do you need to watch out for if you happen to be in those categories, or if you happen to want to go in those categories? Yeah. So let me just go back then. So the first one I want to talk to you about, it's EPC. EPC, oh, let's say solar installer. Please let me just come back again. Solar installer, right? So what are they? It's simply as the name suggests. These are people that would install the system. And now says solar installer, that's just a, a lapsus, right? You see, it shows you how much solar dominates. No, in fact, let's say an installer, because it can be in solar, it can be in wind, it can be in geothermal, or any other renewable energy source. Yeah, this is the guy or the person, right, or the girl that will actually come and install the system for you. Make sure that it works well, right? So that's what they would do. Usually they will have a design, and they have the skill to physically install that system, make sure that they connect it well, and make sure that it works, and they deliver that to you. This is your contractor, right? I usually like to compare also the industry with the construction, because I know everybody is very familiar with what construction is. So this is a guy with the builder, right? He comes and builds it for you, give it to you, and you have it. So this is what they do, the installer. So how are they making the money? Very simple. They are being contracted to deliver the job. It could be like you have either a developer, you have an investor reaching out to them and say, I have this project, and I want you to construct, to build that for me, and to deliver that to the client, right? So basically, I will contract you for you to deliver. That's how you make your money. Very simple. Yeah. So what you need to watch out for if you happen to be in this category. So I'm just keeping it relatively simple so that you understand. So essentially, one of the key things that you need to realize when you're an installer is that you have the design responsibility, right? Very important. So that means when you install the system, so if it breaks down, the first person people are going to be looking at, it's you, right? Because you are the person who installed the system, and obviously you want to make sure that it works right, because people are going to be looking at you. So basically, your reputation is at risk. That's why you need to make sure that you have the competence to do it, and you want to deliver as good a job as possible. Don't just look at the money people are going to be paying you, making sure that you are there to deliver a great job. So having said that, it's important for you to have an insurance. Absolutely. For the reason I just mentioned, because if something goes wrong, people are going to turn towards you, and you may have to pay some damages. In fact, for many of the jobs, for big job, that's why I'm going to come into that just in a few seconds. Big job, they ask you to have some kind of a guarantee that you put forward, just to demonstrate that your good faith, and make sure that you can deliver just this project for them. So you want to have PLI insurance, personal liability insurance, or professional liability insurance, and other insurance as well, just to make sure that you are properly covered. You probably as well want to have a lawyer, right? Just in case things go wrong, somebody can step in for you. And even before that, you can't actually operate in this sector if you don't have a proper certificate that sort of demonstrate that you've acquired the skill that you pretend to be having. And most of the time, if people are serious, they're only going to hire you once they have sort of convinced themselves, they've been able to verify that you have the qualification that you're looking for. And clearly, obviously, you need to have a certificate with identification number. You can go and check. There is a registry. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, when you do this job, the more job you're doing, the better your record will look like. And obviously, you're gonna get lots of opportunities to deliver. Yeah, so that's quite simple. This is the installer. It works in the solar, it works in the wind, it works in the biomass, it works in geothermal. But I believe this is what everybody understands. It's relatively clear and simple, isn't it? Right? Excellent. That's fine. So if you happen to work on bigger projects, right? In fact, your installer, this is you EPC, which stands for engineering, procurement, and construction, right? So this is the term we usually use in bigger project, put it that way, right? If it's a residential market, you're not going to talk about the EPC. I mean, it won't be wrong, but it's just not the terminology that we use. But EPCs tend to be for slightly bigger project, right? You're talking about 100 kilowatts and going forward, right? So that is what I can say. Hopefully that's very clear. If there is a question, please let me know. So I'll do my best to be as quick as possible. I can see I'm already behind. Now let's move on. So after the installer and the EPC, the next that you want to have is the developer. And this one, what I found out from my experience, people struggle sometimes to understand what a solar developer is, and that's normal, right? So let me just break it down and sort of make it as simple as possible for you. So you can call it a solar entrepreneur, even if a solar entrepreneur can also be an installer, right? So the developer, it's the equivalent to the real estate, a developer. Yeah. So if you look about, this is a guy who will originate the project, develop it, bring all the different parties together. He would bring the contractor, he would bring the investor, right? And he would bring whoever needs to the designer to obviously get the project going, manage it, and at the end deliver something that is worth it. And most of the time, he will own the project. Not all the time, but he will sometimes own the project, or at least co-own it, or be part of the consortium that actually own the project. That's what the solar developer is. Like I say, if you look at the real estate industry, right? So this is a guy, like I say, who doing all those development. You can say, okay, you can say, for example, okay, Donald Trump say, hey, I'm in the real estate. Obviously, he's not the one building. He's the one investing. He's the one putting all those forces together, right? So I don't know if that's a great example of Donald Trump, but that's a name I think everybody can recognize, right? And yes, he was president, but before that, he used to be in the real estate. And that's what a developer is. Again, it works in the solar, it works in the wind, it works in geothermal, biomass, and so on and so forth. How are they making the money? Very important, because people don't always understand it. So most of the time, the developer will make his money. It can make multiple ways, but most of the time by getting what we call development fees, right? So the development fees usually get paid to him by an investor, right? By an investor that he's brought into the project, unless he is the investor himself, right? But you get paid the development fees. This is to compensate you for all the job that you've done, putting the project together, bringing different, because you are actually the one paying almost everybody. You pay the contractor, you pay the lawyer, you pay this and that. You are the one paying that. So which suppose that, that's so development fees, that's how you make your money. So, and also if you are investing in that project, some equity, obviously you're going to get some return later, meaning that on top of your development fee, just to compensate you, it's almost like if you're a project manager, right? So you get a compensation that is linked to that. The difference is most of the time that fee, as different to the project manager, it can't be paid at the beginning. Most of the time, the development fee will come later once you've been able to bring on board an investor, right? So that's what it tends to be. Very important to understand it. So what is how are they? Yeah, that's how they make the money. What do you need to watch out for? So development, it's a very tedious job because you are basically an expert at nothing if it's not putting together projects. Yeah, but you rely on different experts, right? That you need to work with. But you need to understand what their job entail, and you have a clear understanding what they do so that you can supervise it and able to find out whether the project is going the right direction or not, right? So that is what your job. So you need to understand that, yeah. So that's what you want to watch out for. And this project, as I said, so project can take a long time to actually materialize from the time you originate them to the time you have financial close, when obviously you've reached the final agreement on investment, all the design are there, and you're moving forward just with the construction. So you can, a lot of time can go past. So it means that a developer, as a business model, like I said, what I found out, basically, by the way, all I'm describing to you, I've done pretty much all of them, apart from maybe being an EPC and an installer, right? So that's why I have some understanding. So as a developer, you need to have a development budget, because when you're talking about, for example, in solar and wind. So development phase can take anything between a month, couple of months to couple 3 to 4 years. So the question becomes, in between, you have to engage with different expenses. So you need to be paying people here and there, even your staff. So you need to have fund for that. It means that you need to have a development budget. If you don't have a development budget, you're a bit screwed. And guess what? Many of the projects that you develop will not materialize. So you need to see what is actually the success rate of those projects. So, if you want to go through this business model, you need to have a deep pocket to allow you to stay the course, right? And also you want to develop multiple projects at the same time. Yeah, just in case you get stuck on one of them, another one could be moving. So you understand why you need to have deep pocket, or you need to have some investors. If you don't have some deep pocket, my advice to you, which is something that we have done and we're doing, so you probably want to have as well another source of income for you to be able to sustain it. So that is very important to understand. And obviously you want to have as well some general knowledge as well, right? Just EPC or the installer, you want to have some insurance. Very, very, very important. And a lawyer, right? So that, right? So that's important. So let me just move on, because I think we can spend literally hours on those things. Yeah. So I talked about the installer, the EPC. I talked about the developer. Let me just talk about now to the third category, right, that you see, which is also another business model. So if you don't want to be an installer because you don't have the right credential, the right certificate, or if you can't be a developer, by the way, as a developer, let me just say that to be a developer, you don't need a degree for that. Whereas to be an installer, EPC, most of the time you want a certification. For a developer, not really. You don't need to. Yeah, you may need some approval here and there, but there isn't a degree as far as I know. You can go and have some courses, some training to some people that recognize companies or training companies. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's fine. By the way, as I'm saying that, you may or may not know that we have an online training for people who want to become a solar entrepreneur. So definitely reach out to us if this is something of an interest. But like I say, you don't need a specific degree for that, right? So I was going to talk about the third business model, which is for me being a consultant. And this is also probably straightforward to understand. So what is your job? What it's all about? You advise people on the project. You can advise the EPC if it needs to be, if it's a complex project and they need some advice on different aspects, or you can advise the developer, or you can advise the investor, right? It depends. So now, as I'm saying that, you understand that then you can have technical consultant, or you can have financial consultant, or you can have lead, right? It depends. So it's quite broad, right? So I think that one is very simple to understand. So how do you get paid? Most of the time, you get paid advisory fees, right? And you are paid by whoever is actually contracting you, whether it's the developer, whether it's the EPC, whether it's the investor, and so on and so forth, right? So they will contract you for a specific project that they give to you, an assignment, you get paid for that, and that's it. You can also get paid on success fee. It depends what is the arrangement, but usually we will have at least a portion for you to kickstart the job. In fact, if you don't have it, this is what I'm recommending before you get the job done, because not everybody obviously is trustful as we would expect. Make sure that you have some initial deposit for you to kickstart the job. So what do you need to watch out for? Well, like I say, as a consultant, so same thing as well. You want to watch out for your reputation, right? Because when things go wrong, people are looking at, obviously, well, how did I fail that, and they will look at identifying who actually led them to the wrong path. So you might want to watch out for your reputation. Make sure that when you're taking and the good thing is you actually don't have the responsibility, right? So if something goes wrong, they can't really sort of say that you are responsible. They may not appreciate you, like you, but ultimately, legally speaking, this is not your responsibility. The responsibility is whoever actually carried the project. But as a consultant, for your reputation and also to make sure you get future job, you want to make sure that you do a great